A few months ago, I did a series of videos on creating a GTK application for elementary OS using Vala. Now, GTK is sort of the dominant toolkit and framework for building UIs on Linux. Qt or Qt is the other big one, and it's known for being fully cross-platform and having very widespread industry and enterprise support. Now, this isn't going to be a video about GTK versus Qt, though I will probably make a video about that in the future. We're going to be using an official Qt language called QML to design a very simple application. And yes, I'm aware that I'm pronouncing Qt wrong, but saying an official Qt language sounds weird, so I'm just going to refer to it as Qt. To get started with Qt, you obviously need the development packages. Depending on your distribution, this may be somewhat cumbersome, and you may need to Google to figure out what the right packages are. I'm on KDE Neon, and I ended up having to install a bunch of different packages. I'm not actually sure which ones were the right ones, but I'm pretty sure that Qt Base 5, Qt Declarative 5, and Qt Creator are enough to get you started. Now, Qt actually provides an official SDK and installer from their website, but it's kind of a pain, and there's a whole bunch of post-install configuration stuff that you have to do. If you can install the correct SDK packages from your distro, just do that. Once you think you've installed the right packages, check to make sure you have QML Scene and Qmake. If you have both of those, you should be good to go. And speaking of QML Scene, it's a super cool application that allows you to sort of prototype your QML code. If you've watched the Vala videos I did a while back, using QML Scene allows you to follow a similar workflow where you're making changes to your applications in a simple text editor and using the terminal to actually view them. The problem with QML Scene is it only allows you to sort of prototype your code. You can't build it or otherwise run it in any way. So as cool as QML Scene is, we won't be using it in this video. Instead of using a simple text editor and terminal like we did with the Vala app, we're going to be using a fully fledged IDE called Qt Creator. This is Qt Creator 4.3 and it's based on Qt 5.9. The first thing we'll do is create a new project. This project is going to be an application, and it's going to be a QtQuick Controls application, not to be confused with a QtQuick application. And believe it or not, those are different. After selecting the project type, you'll go through this sort of wizard thing. It's safe to use pretty much all of the defaults. And at the end of the wizard, we'll click Finish, and the first thing you see should be some QML code. Now, believe it or not, this is a fully functional QML app. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, but it works. Now, QML is the language that is used to design the UI. Functionally speaking, it doesn't do anything besides UI stuff. It doesn't interface with the system, it doesn't do any I/O stuff at all. If you want your app to do pretty much anything, you have to use C++ or some of the unofficial language bindings. But for this app, all the C++ code does is run the engine that runs QML. So instead of using or modify the sample code, we're going to write our own code. So we'll get rid of everything and start with just an application window. Now with QtQuick, for the most part, almost everything happens in the application window. So we'll start with a very simple window, we'll set the visibility to true, we'll give it a title, and we'll give it a default width and height. Now you may notice that it has some auto-completion or IntelliSense, which is nice. It's not the best or the smartest in the world, but it's better than nothing. So we can build and run our application from here in the IDE. Remember to build before running, otherwise you probably won't see your changes. So we can see our application window. It comes with window controls, and we can resize it and all that. So that's cool. Let's give it a header bar. So in the application window, there's an attribute called header, and we'll declare a toolbar. We'll give the toolbar a row layout, and we'll want the entire toolbar to fill the parent, and we'll give it a single button. We'll throw some text at the button, and tool buttons have an on-click event. We want the button to open a file dialog when clicked. And for that to work, we have to import a new namespace. And that namespace is QtQuick Dialogs. So for the file dialog to work, we actually have to declare the object. We'll give it an ID so the tool button can reference it. And the dialog is a window, so we'll give it a title, though titles are optional. We'll make the default folder home, and we'll build and run it. So here's our app. We've got the toolbar, we've got a button, and yep, the styling is all jacked up. That's because for whatever reason, Qt Creator doesn't find the default style for KDE. That strikes me as bizarre because KDE is built on Qt, so, whatever. Alright, let's move on to the next object we're going to work with, and that is a text area. So the text area will be an object inside the application window. We'll give it an ID so other elements can reference it, and we'll have this element fill the parent, which is the application window. So when we run our app, we've got a text area inside the window. Notice how it's not covering the header, and we can edit it, resize it, and everything. Now wouldn't it be nice if we could select a text file from the file dialog and have it show up in our app? Like I said earlier, QML is not designed for any sort of functional application logic. However, QML is based on JavaScript and it has a very lightweight JavaScript engine underneath it. Now what we can do is use QML to trick the JavaScript engine into thinking that the file that we want to open is an HTTP request. Now I know that sounds weird, but just trust me and let's dive in. So still within the application window, we're going to write a new JavaScript function. We're going to name the function openFile and it'll take one parameter, and that's going to be the file URL. Inside the function, we'll declare one variable, that is request, and request will be a new XML HTTP request, and we'll want to take the request and call open. The first parameter will be a string, and that'll be get. The second parameter will be the file URL, and the third parameter will be false. On the next line, we'll do request.send, the parameter being null. And on the final line, we will return the request's response text. That should be the stream from the file that we open. Now we'll go back down to our file dialog object. We'll add a new attribute, onAccepted, and we'll set that to text edit, which is the text area, .text equals our open file function, and the parameter will be file dialog.file URL. Now earlier when I created the text area, I set a default placeholder text. You don't have to do that. By default, the text attribute is just empty. So hopefully you can see how this silly JavaScript function sort of glues all of this together. Since QML doesn't have any sort of I/O functionality, normally you would write something like this in C++. So now that our app is complete, we can use the dialog to open a file and have the text from the file display in the text area. Now that we have a working app, we need to make it so that we can actually distribute it, ideally as a simple binary. This is where QMake comes into play. You can actually run QMake from the context menu if you right-click your project. On the bottom of your window, switch to the Compile Output tab. Assuming that QMake ran successfully, you should have a binary for your application. My binary was under a folder called Build Demo Desktop Debug, and by default the binary will be named after your project, so mine is called Demo. Now at this point you should be able to run the binary by doing // and the binary name. And now that we've successfully created a binary for our application, that just about wraps it up. So I hope that you've enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy the video and learned something, why don't you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate all your support, and thanks for watching.